Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Anastasia Rider, I should say, on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Tampa, which, I mean, just even saying that is making me depressed just because of the weather difference that we're probably experiencing. She's a training, lifestyle, and prep coach. She's basically a jack of all trades when it comes to health and fitness as well. She was a bodybuilder and she's done powerlifting as well. So she's very familiar with both those lifestyles, which are a lot of the guests that I like to have on, either come from both of them. She's also the owner of Flex Appeal in Miami and Tampa. And most importantly, though, she's our current guest. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to you doing, powerlifting and bodybuilding?
Well, I always worked out because I was always involved in sports. Even in elementary school, I did swimming, I did soccer, I did rugby, I did football. I just really like to be active. I wasn't very, very good at any of the things I did. I was pretty good at all of them, but not like the collegiate level. So when I went to college and I couldn't get involved in any of the sports there other than like pickup games, I got really involved in the weight room and I really, really enjoyed that. I don't think it turned a passion for me at that point. I got into law enforcement. I actually graduated with my bachelor's in psychology and criminology. And I spent 3 years as a state law enforcement officer. And I was about 60 pounds lighter then. So I kind of got kicked around a lot by people and bossed around. So I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And that's when I kind of started getting into working out, bodybuilding, because I just didn't want to be little anymore. I didn't want inmates and probationers and people in the back of the car to push me around anymore. So that was kind of what started it. And then, of course, I went through a bad breakup. That's like everybody's story. I went through a bad breakup and I decided that I wanted to completely change my life, blah, 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 blah. I moved to Tampa, Florida, and that's when I got really into bodybuilding about 4 years ago.
Wow. And well, I gotta say now you could probably go back and move in there, and then they'd use you as the intimidation thing if the prisoners were getting rowdy or rough. You just bring her in here and have them look at her, and then they'll calm down. But yeah, and I gotta say, yeah, I mean, breakup bodies, that's a thing. Everyone goes through that. So that's one of our more popular answers. But yeah, and that's awesome. But and I always love to say, especially in this day and age where everyone, wants results now and they want them, yesterday, especially with the younger generation. I mean, this is one of the lifestyles where it is going to take a lot of time. Was that something that you were happy for, or something that you really were upset about? Is the fact that, if you start working out, it can become an addiction, but it is going to take a significant amount of time to see those results, as opposed to a lot of people expect, to walk into the gym and they're just going to see them automatically.
Well, I kind of did. I didn't, I expected to see them automatically. I didn't understand when I first started how long it would take because I had never been very serious with it. I just lifted weights, and I ate like shit and I got a little bit of muscle. So I was like, oh, well, if I actually dedicate myself to this, I'll grow muscle quickly. And it doesn't work that way at all. I thought it would, but it didn't.
And if it does work for you, give me a call because I want to talk to you then.
Yeah, really. Yeah. No, it doesn't work that way.
And another question that I love to ask, because if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape, whether it comes down to their diet, their nutrition, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. So many little things add up to the overall package that people end up seeing. And I always say, if you were to walk up to someone and say, wow, that body part looks amazing, what did you train for that? What works best for them, 99% isn't going to work as good for you. What was that like for you, sort of figuring out what worked best for your body? Because every body's different, and it's everyone's own journey figuring out, what works best.
I think one of the biggest issues that women face when they want to put on a lot of muscle is that they have to also put on weight at the same time. And I think I was kind of in denial about that at first because I'm 5'10" and I had always been around 135 pounds, which is really, really tiny. And I expected, I'll gain like 5 or 10 pounds and I'll all be straight muscle. And it just doesn't work that way. It's not feasible. So I had to really kind of humble myself and say, okay, like you're going to gain weight, you're going to look fluffy, but it's worth it and it's going to pay off and you have to stick with it. Like the minute you gain a little bit, like you start to lose your abs, you can't just stop and turn back and diet down again because you'll never gain the muscle you want. And I think that was really humbling for me because I had always been, I don't want to say vain, but I had always taken care of myself. Like I had always wanted to look a certain way. So to put my pride aside and gain a little bit of weight when I needed to was a lot for me. And I'm sure it's a lot for other women too.
I remember the first day when my abs disappeared, when I was putting on some muscle, and I was just like, is this the right thing? But then, you stick through it, and after a while, it comes to fruition. But one of the things that I love to talk about is genetics, because especially like with technology and social media, everyone wants, or everyone seems to say like, oh, I want her arms, or I want his abs, or I want their back. I mean, people just don't understand that you can just be the best version of yourself. A lot of people, like to criticize themselves by comparing themselves to others when they don't realize that, first of all, you don't know how the person got to that look. You don't know how hard of the work that they put into it. I mean, genetics also plays a huge factor in it. So a lot of people just don't understand that, you just got to be the best version of yourself. And that plays a lot into the genetics, because I always say whenever someone first walks into the gym, they always have that one body part that really, really responds well, that they don't have to train as much. And they always have that one body part that just lags behind. They have to train into oblivion. I mean, I'll give you my examples first. I had jobs all throughout college of working in warehouses. So, you either got a really nice back or you quit. Those are basically the two options that were presented to you. But I'm also 6'3", so my legs and my lower body are just shot, where, I mean, I have to train them into overdrive just to get them to look like any semblance like I've lifted them a day in my life. Calves are the worst. I always said I could inject pure muscle into my calves and they wouldn't gain an ounce. It's just a never-ending journey for me. I still have friends to this day at the gym who, when I walk in, they say, oh, hey, Ryan, you plan on working legs anytime this year? And it's like, dude, you saw me train them yesterday. Come on. Yeah, I know the horror and the pain that I have to go through every time I walk into that gym. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
Even though I'm tall, I'm actually almost all torso. So my legs grow. I know my legs grow really, really fast. Like I have quads just from thinking about it, and arms tend to grow really fast on me too. I think I train them. I just started training them this year. Um, I trained them a little bit when I first started, then I stopped for about 2 years because I just didn't need to. But I started training them again this year. But my back is really hard to grow.
I cannot tell everyone how much I hate her right now. She just started training arms last year again, and they look like that, and she has leg. So you got the best of both worlds. You have the height and the legs, because normally you only get one of those. But, oh, God. It's one of these guests, everyone. Jeez, this is going to be a hard one to get through then. Jeez, I know. The worst was I had one guest who then she put her calf up on the table, and I was like, get off my podcast. I don't even want to talk to you. I don't even want to talk to you. Like, this is ridiculous. But, no, I love asking that, because it's such a vast difference for people, and people don't realize that, just because you work out the way he or she works out doesn't mean you're going to end up looking like that person. So I love to ask that. But, I mean, one thing that, it's talked about, but I'd love to preach about it even more, is that, this lifestyle is 85 to 90% nutrition. I mean, so many people just think that if they work out, kind of like you were, like if they worked out and then if they eat like crap in the beginning, that you might see, a little bit of change. You might gain a little bit of muscle, but you won't really see the massive change that you're looking for unless you change up that nutrition. What would you say was probably the biggest nutritional change that you made when you were getting started?
When I went through the bad breakup, I hired a coach right off the rip, and the first thing he did, I ate stupid. I would have like fish and spinach and pineapple pretty much all day. Like that was all I ate, and I thought I was doing great. And he changed it up and had me eat carbs at every single meal. He actually started me out with 7 meals a day, and I was eating carbs from freaking 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, and I had never done that before. And I was terrified to do it, and I didn't want to do it, but I had again the bad breakup. I hadn't eaten in like 2 or 3 weeks really solid food. So once I started doing that, it was like I had been depleted, and I just grew so quickly in those first like months I did that. And it opened up my eyes to the whole nutrition aspect, because I had just changed my diet. I still trained exactly the same way, but I gained so much muscle and I looked leaner. Like I looked better. I looked tighter. I looked leaner. I had more muscle. So I said, oh, so this food stuff is kind of important. It's not just eat whatever and then show up.
The worst thing with me is when that changed, I was like, I'd been doing it wrong for so long that I was mad at myself. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, where would I be at right now if 2 years ago I had just started doing it instead of, just going out and drinking every weekend and having, like, two hamburgers basically every week. But yeah, that's the one moment where, it's great that you finally made that change. But at what point in your journey that you decided that you wanted to compete in, powerlifting and bodybuilding?
Pretty much when I moved to Florida, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I had only seen. I actually thought I wanted to compete in bikini at first, and I surpassed that pretty quickly. I did figure for a while, but I ended up surpassing that too.
Yeah, that's and a lot of people, yeah, they want to try and start in bikini. For one of my first guests, I had the tallest ever bikini competitor. She was 6'3" without the heels, and so she was my height basically. So it was, yeah, I was how you so I gotta ask, when you were figure, how did you deal with those heels? Because you're tall enough as it is, and tall people usually don't go so well in heels. I've found from experience with people that I've known. Not that I wear heels, anyone, but just from experience.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wink, wink. Yeah.
I was awkward, and you could look at me and know that it wasn't right for me.
Well, I say it's like don't these people go through enough already, and you're making them wear high heels to walk out on a stage? It's like they're already dieted down and depleted enough. It's like, geez, make things a little bit easier on them. But that leads me into, I mean, a myth that I love to bust on this podcast. We talked about this before we started recording, but it's gotten better the last 5 years due to Instagram. But there's still so many women who unfortunately have that fear where if I walk in the gym and I do one curl, I do anything that has to do with anything weights, I'm just going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And, first of all, I want to have that type of confidence where if I walk into the gym and I think that I'm going to get that big, because that type of confidence, I mean, I could conquer the world with that confidence. And, secondly, though, it is just so not true. I mean, just the amount of mistake that has, I mean, not the amount of mistake, but just the amount of ignorance that has. But it's obviously they don't mean it when they say that, but it's just so not true. And I always said I would, give you my phone number and I would pay you my life saving just to train with you once then if that really did happen to you. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet you still hear that all the time now. How do you like to respond to that?
I mean, I didn't have that fear personally. I wanted to get bigger, but I have honestly, I've trained so many people, and I've had people for almost 3 years now, women who I train pretty much the same way I train, and they don't look like me. I mean, that's the simplest way to put it. Like, I've been training them 3, 4 times a week for 3 years now, the exact same way I work out. Sometimes I'll even put them through a workout I've done before, and they don't look like me because it's not about how you train. You can train every day for the rest of your life in your gym, and if you're not eating to support that goal of getting big as a female, you won't. You just won't.
And again, if you do, give me a call. But no, you're not going to. Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, I always told a friend, like, she had a very heavy purse. I don't know if she had like a dead sorority sister in there or something. And I said, literally, that purse weighs like 15, 20 pounds, and you are not gaining any amount of muscle from lugging that thing around 24/7. And then she finally started to realize that. But yeah, it's just another thing that a lot of people just don't understand. But one of the things that I love to talk about, because I think it affects women so much more positively than it does men, is the confidence boost that working out gives you. We have heard hundreds of stories on this podcast of women who have been able to, either make life-changing decisions, or it's helped them maybe be more assertive, or it's just helped them better their life in general. And I always say that is the one thing that you can take from the gym and use to impact every single aspect of your life. How have you taken that confidence boost that working out has given you and used that to better your life?
I mean, it changed my life really. Working out did to some extent, but getting into bodybuilding is really what did it, because that takes a level of dedication, and it pushes you to do things that you never thought you would be able to do. And then you do it, and then there's something harder, and then you're able to do that too. So you realize that you're pretty much limitless. And it's not just in working out, it's in every aspect of life. Like, if you just keep working, because like you said, it's not, you can have good genetics, you can have really bad genetics. You can come from in shape, or you can come from really out of shape, and you can still make it work with bodybuilding. It's all about what you put into it. So if you can do that with bodybuilding, why can't you do it with everything?
I always say, first of all, if you can get through a prep, you can get through anything in life. I mean, that's just I tried going on a prep for 2 weeks just to help support a friend that I knew was competing, and I lasted, yeah, like I said, I lasted 2 weeks, and I was like, nope, can't do it anymore. It's just, and it takes a whole different type of human to do that. And that, I mean, with prep, I always love to say, I mean, the general public doesn't realize that to be able to get into shape to go on a prep takes so much hard work, dedication, and determination that so many people wouldn't be able to do that. To add on also to the nutrition that has to happen. I mean, the nutrition alone, 90% of the people would not be willing to go and do that, because I mean, for so many people that are just so used to the fast food lifestyle that a lot of people enjoy these days. But what was that experience like for you going on to your preps, and how has that evolved since your career has gone on? Has preps gotten easier for you, or in some cases, for some guests that we've had on, it's gotten harder? What has been that experience like for you?
I'm kind of at a point where I enjoy that more. I mean, my boyfriend competes too, so it's never like awkward at home. We're not like, oh, I want to go out to eat and I can't. Like, I like it more because there's no wondering or worrying. Like, when I get home from the gym, my off season, I wonder what I'm going to eat at night. Should I have my meals? Should I go out to eat? Should I do this? How will that fit in with the rest of my day? How will that affect me? Like, now, when I'm in prep, I know exactly what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, when I'm doing it, etc. It just takes a lot of guesswork out of it. So I really enjoy it. I mean, obviously, towards the end, like the last couple weeks, it can be a little rough, but when you're still double digit weeks out, it's probably the best part of prep. I enjoy it.
Yeah, and if I ever competed in a show, I would wear it like a badge of honors, knowing that I got through prep, because so many people just they don't understand preps. They just think that, like I said before we started recording, that you guys just work out and then you go up on stage and pose. But that leads me into also the number one thing that I would have never guessed in a million years before I started this podcast, that for so many of my guests is the hardest thing for them is posing. I mean, it's harder than you're working out. It's harder than your nutrition for so many of the guests. And I like to compare it now to being a perfect driver, where you can be a great driver, you can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser, you can never be a perfect poser. It's always ever evolving. What has your experience with posing been like?
Um, when I did women's figure, posing was extremely challenging for me. And then I classed up to women's physique, and it was like just having the confidence of doing something that I enjoyed and felt right doing translated into my posing and made it a lot better. Obviously, I still practice pretty much every time I work out, and then I'll practice again on the weekends just to find what looks best on me, because your body's always changing too. From prep to prep, you have to find what poses complement you the best, but it is something that you have to constantly work at.
Out of your physique poses, what is your favorite pose to do and what is your least favorite pose to do?
I really like my front double bicep. I think everybody likes that though.
We had
And
so we had two guests out of the 150 that I've had. Two guests said that was their least favorite, and I recommended a psychiatrist that they could go and see, because clearly something's wrong with them if they didn't think. But no, one of them was because their arms are the thing that takes the longest to grow, and then the other one said it was because their legs, they couldn't get them to look. They had trouble with their thighs when they were trying to get them flexed or whatever during that pose, and so I gave them a pass for that. But if anyone just that's that. But yeah, that's a given. That's almost a given answer. But what is your least favorite?
I don't think I have one now. It used to be my back double because my back was just so underdeveloped compared to the rest of me. But I did a lot of training differently this off season, and I actually like my back pose now. So I don't think I have a least favorite one anymore.
I always said if I ever competed, I would always say the back pose, not because of my back, but just because that's the one pose where you can kind of let your smile down a little bit. We had a guest from Australia come on, and she said, I let my smile down for 15 seconds during a show, and I got points docked off of it. So a lot of people don't realize, your jaw muscles are going to be some of the most sore things after a show, just because you have to maintain that smile and that look. And a lot of people don't understand that. But now we go to a fun question. As you can see, I'm one of the palest people that you'll ever meet in your entire life. My thick Norwegian skin, being in the upper Midwest, where the sun is not my friend. I either get burnt to an absolute crisp or I get farmer's tan, where, let's be honest, that is not a real tan. But bodybuilders get to get tan, so I always love to ask, what is that feeling like when you get that tan on? And we always hear, competitors say, you see muscles that you never even knew that you had. Everything really seems to pop out. You really get to see the finished product. What is that feeling like for you?
It's awesome. I love it. The first time I got a tan, though, I don't had a male coach the first time I competed, and he didn't really warn me what it was going to be like when we were tanning. So I just showed up there, and they're like, "Okay, get naked." I was like, "Oh, well, all of us?" Yeah. Then I had this Asian lady having me bent over, squeezing me up and down with a freaking thing, putting the tan on. So that was kind of weird. But now that I know what to expect, I like it. It's cool.
So the first time I heard that story from someone, it was like the first podcast I did with a bodybuilder, and I was like, "There's no way they don't make you get naked or whatever like that." And she's like, "Oh no, yeah, they do." After about 5 people more confirmed that for me, I was like, "Okay," because I was like, maybe
Yeah.
someone was just trying to be like a creep and was just like, "Oh yeah, you get naked for this or whatever," and then you go in and then everyone's like, "No, you're crazy. We don't do that." But no, yeah, that's one thing too where I was like, yeah.
They bend over and they just go to town.
Jeez. Yeah, when I first heard, I was like, oh my god, I was like, that can't be a thing. But yep, I know that honestly actually might be the most shocking thing that I've learned from this entire podcast. But again, it just goes into what that dedication entails. But I always say too, with that tan, you can't really sit on anything, you can't really lean up against anything. You basically just become a human statue. Where these competitors go through enough. Like I've said this 100 times. They go through enough already. It's if they could come up with some spray tan where you can still do everything and you can still function as a person without bringing bed sheets, without doing that. Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. But a question that I ask all of my guests, whether they be my up and coming bands and musicians or the health and fitness, for the bands, I always ask, what is that feeling like when you get to walk up on stage and play those songs that you've rehearsed for months upon months and really just perform live in front of people? That also applies to the bodybuilders that I have on the show. What is that feeling like for you when you get to walk up on stage and show off all that hard work that you've worked months upon months on, and everything really seems to come into purpose?
Pretty much like you said, you put so much work into it. That's why people always ask me if I'm nervous or anything to go on stage, and that's not my personality anyway. But you put so much time and effort into it. Like, how can you be nervous? This is, as long as you prepped correctly and put everything out there that you could, there's no way you can be nervous because you're ready to show it off. This was the point of everything you did. And that's kind of what I always think of when I get on stage every single time, like, this is why I did all of this. Like, this is why I went through all of this.
I would honestly just be like one of those guys where I'm like, just get it over with. Like, I'd be the first one to walk up there. I was like, let's just get this over. I've been through enough already with my prep and everything. It's like, come on, let's just get this done. But when you're on that stage, does time seem to slow down, or does it seem to speed up, or is it sort of a mixture?
When I'm doing my routine, it kind of slows down, but when I'm like standing there posing with other people, it seems to go so fast. Like, I always wish we had more time, but
Oh yeah, that's one thing too. Where it's like the bands that I have on, yeah, they can perform for up to 2 to 3 hours a night or twice a weekend. And these competitors, I mean, they train months upon months to go on stage for 2 minutes sometimes, and
yeah.
it's like, geez, that just even that's one of the things that really attracted me to the bodybuilding is the bodybuilding crowds. I mean, if they go through all of that just for that short amount of time, that just shows even more the dedication and the drive that takes. But now another fun question: what is your go-to post-show meal?
I don't know. I can't really do sugar right after a show. It makes me sick. So I kind of will just get something hearty like burger, fries, steaks, the boring stuff everybody else gets.
Not boring at all. I said if I ever competed, I would just rent a Five Guys out with $1,000 and just be like, I'm renting you out for the night. You're gonna feed me until I pass out, puke, or die. Either way, I'm gonna get my money's worth. But that also leads me into another stereotype that I love to bust, because so many people don't understand that look that you guys put on stage is not a sustainable look. You're not gonna be able to look that way 365 days out of the year. And I think a lot of it has to do with like shows like Biggest Loser and whatnot, where these guests go on and they lose, 150 pounds, and some of them are able to keep the weight off. Where people look at that and then they just look at bodybuilding and they just assume that, oh, you guys work just as hard, you should be able to keep that look that you present on stage. But they don't realize, either water manipulation or all the other manipulations that you do to your body, and the extreme working out that happens, and the precision diet. They don't understand that look is not sustainable. Was that a shock to you when you first learned that? And how have you been able to adjust to that as your career has gone on? Has it gotten easier for you to accept the fact that, hey, this look that I present on stage, I'm not going to be able to look like that until the next time I compete?
Um, Again, I don't think I realized it until I did my first prep and I looked back at pictures of myself right before I got on stage and I was like, ugh. Like, you don't look good. Like, I thought I looked good at the time, but when I look back at the pictures, I'm like, oh my God, like, you look sunken in and you look, dehydrated. It's just not a good look. So now I kind of keep that in mind moving forward. Like, yeah, I might feel really good in the moment, but you don't look healthy. You don't look, you know, it's not sustainable. And you have to keep that in the back of your mind, even when you're in the moment and you're enjoying it. Like, you have to get back to being healthy. I always try and with myself focus on having a health based mindset rather than just, well, I look so good, I look so good. Because you're not going to look good forever, no matter what you do.
Absolutely. And I always say in college, we had a figure competitor at my gym, and I went to go give her a hug right before her last workout before she did the show. It was like hugging a skeleton. And I was like, oh, what the? It's like, what the? Like, you could feel everything. And it's like, oh, it's like I can almost feel your heart, basically. Jeez, or
Yeah.
your lungs. It's like, come on. But yeah, that's another thing that people don't realize, that when they're on the stage, they're usually at their weakest that they ever are. So a lot of people, I mean, you give off the illusion. That's why I say bodybuilding is one big illusion too, because you're trying to pretend like you're at your strongest when you're really at your weakest. But were you always into powerlifting when you started in the bodybuilding, or did that somewhat evolve where you just wanted to give powerlifting a try too? What was your journey with powerlifting like?
Well, I haven't done too much of powerlifting. I just put up good lifts as far as powerlifting goes. I've never actually competed in it.
Well, I'm gonna ask her lifts at the end of the show, because I don't want to embarrass everyone right now, and then like have half my viewers like leave right now because they'll be like, okay, this is BS. But yeah, it's powerlifting. I mean, that's a whole different beast in it. But when it comes, I mean, you own Flex Appeal. How did that come to be when that you owned your own gym?
When I moved to Tampa, I decided that I had done a little bit of personal training when I lived in Georgia and I was in law enforcement because, a lot of cops not really in good shape, so they wanted help. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. I didn't do it for any pay or anything. I just taught people and I really enjoyed it. So I got my personal trainer certification and I decided to start training people. But I'm the type of person that always looks at long term. I said, do I want to be on my feet training people, 12, 13 hours a day for the rest of my life? I kind of don't. That's not really sustainable to me. I really enjoy what I do, but I need to find a way to make it so I can train a couple people every day and still be able to live. I'm not looking to be a millionaire. It doesn't interest me, but just, to have a sustainable life. So I decided when I moved to Florida, I would eventually open up my own gym and I trained people, saved up money. I worked 7 days a week for 2, 3 years to save up the money for it. And I met my partners in Miami and they said they wanted to build a gym in Tampa. I said I wanted to build a gym in Tampa. We had the same kind of values and beliefs about what we wanted the gym to be, so we worked together and built it, and it's been here almost a year now.
I gotta be honest. When you say partners in Miami, I cannot think about anything other than like cocaine dealers from like those TV shows. Whenever someone's like, "My partner's in Miami and me" or whatever, and then you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah." No, yeah. So that's so awesome that you got to own that you get to own your own gym. And I gotta say, so we can see your dog in the background, and I'm one of the biggest dog lovers of all time. What's your dog's name?
His name's Bubba. We rescued him, actually.
Yeah,
He was,
that is so. Oh, he's so. Oh, is it? What kind of dog is he?
he's a Shar-Pei Chow mix.
Yeah. I am like the biggest dog person of all time. Our dog is a little Cavachon. I mean, your dog would eat our dog for breakfast, but so yeah, it's. I love those chill dogs too because we've had some dogs on the podcast where literally they bark the entire time, and yeah. So Bubba's awesome. So everyone, yeah, go check out Bubba. So yeah, that makes the podcast even better. I love it when we have animals on. I was honestly going to think of making like a compilation of all the times that we've had animals on the podcast, and then just releasing that as a podcast in and of itself. But I mean, going back to your story, two of the questions that I love to ask everyone that comes on for health and fitness. I mean, there were so many positive things that happened to me once I started working out and getting in shape. The one negative thing is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of you're going to get asked to open a lot of you're going to get asked to open a lot of pickled jars and bottled waters. I mean, you're basically the go-to strength person where anytime, I'm still at home with my parents for the next 2 months, and every time that they come home with groceries, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway and bring in the groceries for them. Has that been a similar experience for you as obviously as you've gotten a lot bigger, people just expect that you can do favors for them?
Well, it's more so people stop doing favors for me. Like I was just because I've moved around so much. I moved from Georgia, then I moved to Florida. I've lived in about 4 places since I moved to Florida, and nobody will ever help me move, ever.
I'm going to be completely honest. If she came up to me and said, "Hey, Ryan, you want to come help me move?" I'd be like, "Look in the mirror," and then I just walk away.
Can you help me move?
Yeah, no, I totally understand that because being the height thing too. I mean, I could have zero muscle at all being 6'3", and I'd still get asked all the time. So I mean, that's just one of those things where it's you got to put up with it. But sort of going off that, I mean, let's be honest, you are not the average looking 5'10" woman. I mean, if you were to walk down the street dressed like you are right now, you're going to get a lot of stares just because. I mean, if you have muscles and you're a woman, society wise, I mean, it's rare, so you almost become sort of like a mini celebrity. I like to compare it to where I mean you are going to get a lot of looks and people are just I mean and you're going to get feedback, positive and negative, but it's just a different experience. I feel. What has that been like for you getting used to that, and has it gotten easier for you as your career's gone on to adjust to the fact that if you go out in public you might get some stares or you might be a little bit more of interest to the public?
Honestly, that is something I really struggled with up until about a year ago because, kind of like you said, if I was 5'1", 5'2", it really wouldn't bother me. But I'm usually around 200 pounds. Like that's right where I sit. So I'm not small. And a lot of the girls that compete in women's physique and figure are cute, little. They're like 5'5", 5'6". All their Instagram names are like tiny something or cute this or cute that or like it's that's not me. I can't even pretend. And when I walk down the street, like you said, or I go anywhere, people notice me. People did before just because I was a tall woman, but then you add the muscle to it. Because, like I said, I used to be 135 pounds. I add 65 pounds of muscle to that, and people are just like, and I really did used to struggle with it. I doubted myself a lot in the sport because I felt like I just stood out in a bad way. And it took me my boyfriend helped me a lot with that, and opening the gym helped me a lot with that to be confident in myself and to kind of realize that it really doesn't matter what other people think of me at all. And now I'm at a point where I really don't care. Like I like being bigger.
Yeah. She is what I like to refer to as a brick shithouse. Everyone, that's the best way to describe. That's the best way to describe it, and I mean that in the best way possible. But yeah, I'm 205 pounds myself, so we're somewhat similar in that. So yeah, walking down the street, yeah, it can be interesting at times, but yeah, I can't imagine what it must have been like for you because I mean it's a lot easier for guys than it is for women. But I mean that's such a great attitude to have about it too, because it's like you're not going to be able to change people's minds. You're not going to be able to make them not stare. So just ignore it too and just go along with it. I mean,
I'm getting stared at. Like I can't. never been to a place that wasn't a gym where somebody didn't say something to me. It's just a part of my life. So if I want to get upset about it every time, I'm going to be upset a lot.
The only reason the only thing that crosses paths with me is like when people would come up and like touch me for like no reason, like they like come up and like feel my arm, like drunk girls at bars were. This was during the college years, so I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I pumped it up from a couple of times, just to add the intent, just to add the drama, but or I mean not the drama, but just to add a little bit fun to it. But still sometimes now it's like yeah, that's where I cross the line a little bit. But yeah, most of the time it's was people asking. My greatest story was I was at a Cub Foods once and some old grandma and she goes, you look like you're strong. Can you help me lift this turkey into my cart or whatever? I was like, of course. It's like, what kind of idiot would I be if I said no, do it yourself? But yeah, she was just like a sweet old lady, and I had to obviously tweet about that because it was a great moment. But yeah, it's always interesting going out in public. But my favorite question to ask anyone on the show, health and fitness wise, is I mean, we've had enough guys on the show too to realize that guys with muscle have a hard enough time as it is with their wardrobes, but women with muscle, that is a whole different story. I see we get that reaction all the time every time we mention that. I mean, the minute that someone takes a look at you and looks at I say as soon as you have your big broad shoulders, dresses aren't your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time. Where if you have a big lower body and a small waist, good luck with the jeans. I mean, your clothing options can be severely limited, and the fact that you're bodybuilding, I mean, you basically have to have two wardrobes: your prep wardrobe and your off-season wardrobe. What's that journey been like from you trying to figure out, wardrobes? Because with your ever changing body, I mean, it must be tough at times.
Honestly, when my off season, I mostly just wear dude clothes. I because it's too stressful and it's too upsetting to try and squeeze into chick clothes, and they're all made very very tight, and it's not comfortable. And I work pretty much every day from 4 a.m. till freaking 8 or 9 p.m. So I don't want to be uncomfortable. So if I'm in an off season and I'm basically like 195 and up is where I just wear guy clothes all the time.
She does have a nice wardrobe. I saw your Gryffindor shirt that you posted in Instagram photo before, and I was like, okay, that's great. I was like, get me a Slytherin one. I'm more of a Slytherin kind of guy myself personally, but yeah, I saw that and I was like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. But one of the things that I love to talk about, especially when it comes to female bodybuilding, is the community because I've seen photos of you working out with multiple women. I mean, we had Gina on the podcast about a year ago, and she was a great guest, and we've seen that you've done lifts with her. The thing about female bodybuilding that really intrigued me is that it's one of those rare sports where everyone generally seems to care about each other. I mean, you see these posts on Instagram where everyone you might make a post about your progress and everyone's like, "Wow, you look amazing! You're going to do great at the show." Most sports you won't see that, and I've seen videos of backstage at shows where it's like a one big family kind of where everyone just supports each other. And so I love to ask this question: what is that like for you, knowing that this sport that you compete in and that is for a long time, it basically is your life. You do have people that really do generally care about you and have your back.
I mean, I love it. That's part of the reason why I got into it because in law enforcement, it might sound weird, but I really didn't feel like that all the time in law enforcement. And in this sport, I really do feel like that. I have a lot of close female friends that compete, and we're there for each other. Like we can go months without talking, and then just pop in and be like we never stopped. And it's great. Every show I've gone to, I pretty much leave knowing every girl that was in my class and either having their number or having their Instagram, and I still keep in contact with a lot of them. And I love that. Like I want to make friends. I'm here to compete, but I'm not here to compete with other people, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to beat other people. I want to be the best version of me I can. I know that's like the corny thing to say, but I really do mean it. And I think the friendships I get out of this are more valuable than any award I could get.
Have you found that like with your boyfriend competing in bodybuilding too, that it's a little bit different for the men's bodybuilding as opposed to where they might not be as friendly?
Um, well, he competes in 212, and honestly, I've seen the 212 guys tend to be really cool to each other. Men's open, I've noticed they're really not. And I actually had a conversation with another 212 competitor about this, but I don't know. The men in the 212, like he makes so many friends at every show he goes to that are in his class, and they all talk and they're all in contact with each other. So, I mean, I think if you the higher up you go as far as division wise, the more camaraderie there is. Like I feel like men's physique competitors really don't get along with each other at all. But the same with like women's bikini. A lot of them have like really fake friendships. They're not really friends. But the bigger
Don't
you
even
get,
don't even get me started on the women's bikini division. Don't even get me
yeah.
started on that. Yeah, that is yeah.
I feel like, the more muscle you put on, obviously the harder it is to get to that point, and you kind of can see someone else, and even if you don't necessarily like them as a person, you have to respect the work they put in, and you know that you have something in common.
Yeah, that's why one of my guests that I had on, I'm not even gonna name her name, but she was talking about how like women's bikini division is like we train harder than everyone else to get that look, and I was like, oh my god. I literally just want to stop it right there, and I was like, I have some physique competitors or bodybuilders that would literally beg to, but it's just again, you're training for different purposes, you're training for
Yeah.
different looks. But I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna start any controversy on this podcast. But no, yeah, it is that too. I mean, yeah, there are divisions where people might not get along as well, but overall, I think, and I totally agree with you. Where as you get higher up, I mean, you see some of those like high class female bodybuilders; they're all best friends basically, and they all know each other. And like you said, because they know the dedication that it entails, and they know that it's like a very exclusive club. So that's a great thing to really, I think, have. But now that we're, well, it's God, we're in February already. Jeez, that month really flew by. But I always like to talk about around New Year's with the New Year's resolutioners because, owning a gym, you probably know this better than anyone that, you're going to have a uptick in business. But around February, everyone always says there's the joke that, if you want to start your journey, start in February because the gym's going to be totally empty by then. But what advice do you have for people that are looking to get in shape and looking to change their life, but might not have, might not know how to, might not have that motivation? Because I always say that there's some people that, they make so many excuses. We're like, oh, I don't have enough time, blah blah blah. They try to make all the excuses in the book. But what advice do you have for people that are just looking for that outlet and how to get in shape, or what advice do you have for them just to be able to take that first step and get started?
I know this is going to sound like a sales pitch, and it's not, but I really, really think that even if it's for a short term, everyone should hire a coach or a personal trainer that knows nutrition. Because if you are doing something and trying to accomplish a goal and you're not making any progress, you're not going to be motivated to keep doing it. If you hire a good coach, then you know that at least for a couple months that you pay them, you will be on the right track and you'll learn things and you'll actually be making progress. And if you're making progress, even if you don't have that coach anymore, you're going to be a lot more likely to stick with it. It's and it's like anything. If you want to be good at it, you learn from somebody that knows better than you get better at it, and then you move on your own. Like school, any trade you would work, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I highly recommend getting a coach as well. I mean, we've heard so many success stories with coaches, and let's be honest, you're going to get the work done much quicker too. I've never heard a story of anyone doing it on their own and it taking quicker than going with a coach, just because, yeah, you get someone that knows their stuff, they can only benefit you, and that's awesome. But out of the myths and stereotypes that I love to bust, I always ask the female bodybuilders, what do you think is probably the biggest myth that the general public has about female bodybuilding?
I think I don't know. There's so many of them. I think you hit a lot of them as far as that's easy to get like that. But I think they also have this misconception that we somehow become masculine too whenever we become bodybuilders, and that's not. That couldn't be further from the truth at all. Like nothing changes. I don't think having muscle makes a woman look masculine. That doesn't make it. I mean, by that same logic, a man without muscles would look feminine.
I always say to them, what kind of men are you hanging out with then?
Yeah, but that's the biggest one I get. Like people say, "Oh, you work out so much, aren't you afraid of looking like a man?" And that's never even crossed my mind. If anything, I've had better luck dating since I started working out more.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I mean, it shows your hard work and dedication. Well, we're gonna bust this right now. Can you give us a front double bicep? And I'm gonna say, does she look like Dwayne the Rock Johnson or Hulk Hogan or any of those guys? Re- yeah, really? Does she look anything? Does she look anything like that? She looks awesome. But I mean, it's like we'll put a photo of Dwayne the Rock Johnson up ahead, up in front of her, and say, yeah, very similar indeed. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, that's one that I hear all the time too. And it's like, no, it's if working out makes you look like a man, then that's I don't know, first of all, what being a man has become then these days, if that's what that entails, because yeah, there's so many. I mean, we've gone through all the positive things too that working out can give you, but yeah, that's unfortunately that's one that we still hear of all the time. So I say, with every podcast, if we could just slowly get that myth down, that would be awesome. But when it comes to competing too, what would you say is probably one thing, if you were giving the all-knowing power, if they came up to you and said, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, what would it be?
I don't know if I'd want to change anything. I really love it as is. I do because yeah, it's hard and it can suck sometimes, but that's what makes it so rewarding. If it was easy, it wouldn't really be worth it. You don't want something that's easy. I don't.
Well, I'll give you the one that I hear all the time and see what you think about it, because one thing that we hear of is just if they were to have more parity among the judges, because I always say if you were to compete in back-to-back shows on back-to-back weekends, one show they might want you a super lean look, and then the next show they might want you a little bit more of a fuller look, and it's like good luck making that change, over a week. So if they were to just have like a general model of like what they want and say like this is exactly what they want, because it can seem that there just can be so bipolar in between shows.
That I do see. I have heard that different judges like different looks, which that doesn't make sense to me. You should have one look. I wish that like because obviously it's going to change year to year, and I'm okay with that. But at the beginning of the years, they should release exactly what they're looking for, so you can fulfill that category. You shouldn't have to kind of guess going into it. So that, yeah, that I would agree with.
See, we got it. We got her on that one. I always say, that's the one that like if you don't agree, yeah. But I like to compare it to like when I was getting recruited for baseball for colleges, you'd go to like these showcases where they'd work you out and then they'd see your skills or whatever. And then what they do is they'd write down like a report on you and then they'd send it to you in the mail the next week. And then you get it and it'd be like, here's your times, here's what we want to look for in you. If they just did that with bodybuilding, that would help out too. Where like they literally just wrote down like, here's your grade, here's one body part that you really need to work on, here's one body part that is amazing. Just make sure that you bring it just like that the next show. If they were to really do that, I think that would really help out as well. But if we were to talk to you a year from today, what are some goals that you'd like to have achieved when it comes to, just your overall life, bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever you have with fitness goals? What are some goals that you'd like to see achieved if we were to talk to you a year from today?
A year from now, I'd like to keep growing the gym, obviously, and hopefully be a pro by then. That's my big goal for this year. I plan on prepping pretty much all year and just taking it slow and showing up whenever I'm able to and whenever I look the part and just seeing what I can do.
Do you
I
have any
plan to prep.
dates? Do you have any dates in mind, or are you just going to play it by ear?
Nope, I want to wait. I don't want to stress myself out and try and get lean too quickly or try and hold back or try and do whatever. I'm just going to naturally cut down slow and steady until I look, like I'm 2 or 3 weeks out, and then I'll pick a show.
That's honestly the first time that we've heard someone explain it like that, and I don't get why everyone isn't like that, because you think just with the stress alone, stress, you can put on weight, stress can change up your hormones so much. I mean, that seems like a really smart way to do it. Yeah. So I
And
don't.
he's tried to like diet down quickly for a show. I haven't looked the way I wanted to. Like if I pick a show 4 months in advance, now I'm dead set on doing that show. And if something doesn't go the way I want it to, now I'm scrambling to try and pick up the pace or do extra cardio, do this and that's not going to make you look good.
No, yeah, that's I couldn't have said it better, because that is I honestly I'm gonna start preaching that now for my guests that I have on, if they want to have any suggestions of what to do. That seems like a great way to do it. But where can people find your flex appeal that you own, if we have, because I can guarantee we have guests in the Florida area that might be interested in finding a place to work out. Where are you located at?
We are right off of 275, which is a pretty major highway in Tampa. We're at the Bush exit, and we're right at the corner there. We're 1010 East Bush. We're a big warehouse.
So I gotta ask this to every guest that I have on from Florida. How many have you had any encounters with alligators living there?
Mm, um, no, I have a couple members that have seen alligators in their neighborhood, so I don't go over to their house when they tell me they've seen them. But I try not to have encounters with alligators. Actually, I don't know.
My one time that I went down to Florida for baseball in high school for our spring trip, we went to Vero Beach, and going right out of the training complex that we were doing, we saw one right in the swamp down there, and then we're like, that's an animal that could kill us if it wanted to, and it's just 20 yards away from us. No big deal. And everyone just acts like it's normal because it's Florida. They're just like, oh yeah, that's an alligator. It's like, yeah.
Not from here, so I don't know what to do with an alligator. We didn't have them walking the streets of Philadelphia, so
I'd pull a Happy Gilmore and just start to wrestle with it, or Steve Irwin, try to get it down. That's not as long as you attack it from behind, you're no. It's I've always been fascinated, and the geckos too are one thing that I was really freaked out by it in Florida. They're like squirrels, basically. Yeah, they're like the squirrels of Florida, where they're just all around. We used to take them and then we put them in like the person's like bed sheets or something like that. When they're going to sleep, they'd go to bed, and then the geckos, or we take like those little sea crabs that were like nuzzled in the beach. Yeah, we got in a little bit of trouble with that, but it was a lot of fun. I will admit it was a lot of fun. But before we wrap things up, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Ooh, I don't know.
Your boyfriend.
Maybe just to maybe my members and everybody that supports me in everything I do, especially my boyfriend. He's okay.
You tolerate him.
No, he's good. He's good. I couldn't do what I do without him. He is very supportive, and not supportive in like the do whatever you want to do. I support you, but like really supportive. Like he'll pick up slack for me when I need it without holding it over my head type thing. Like he'll pick up chores around the house. He'll make sure I'm being the best me I possibly can. He'll push me when I train, and that means more to me than just lip service. So I really do appreciate him. I appreciate everyone that supported me on this journey. I appreciate just everyone that's blessed my life these last couple of years since I moved here to Florida.
Have you two ever been on prep together?
We're always on prep together. We met on prep together.
Okay, so how do you guys deal with that? Because have you ever had shows on like the same weekend where like were you both ever on prep brain? Because I was like, it's hard enough if there's one person in the couple that's on prep brain at the time, but when you have multiple, do you guys like have to like? We've had one guest who's like, yeah, we had to like literally have a sitter come over and watch us because we couldn't trust ourselves on prep brain. Have you guys had any funny stories together on prep brain?
No, he doesn't really. He doesn't really get like that. He's so calm. I get bad. Like I lose my mind towards the end of prep, and I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. But he's good. He's just somebody different, I guess. But we spent our first 6 months as a couple together on prep.
Now that's a love story, everyone. Okay, you see all these romantic comedy movies. I mean, spending your first 6 months on a prep, that is dedication to a relationship right there. But
I mean, but we had to actually get to know each other too, so it was
yeah,
kind of a thing. Like we couldn't go out on dates, we couldn't eat, we couldn't drink. Like we had to sit.
you
And
got to see each
talk.
other hangry for the first time.
Yeah, we had the first 6 months together were a little rough sometimes. We almost didn't make it, but I'm glad we did.
Hey, you guys pulled through. And again, you guys, everyone, go and check her out on Instagram. I'll leave a link down below. I'll leave a link for her boyfriend too. I mean, I love supporting all the guests on the podcast, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck in all of your endeavors in the next year. And love to have you on in another year to check up on you, and you can show us your pro card and show how you've done that. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I promised everyone this is how it ended up. What are your best powerlifting lifts? Good God.
I've hit 245 on bench. For deadlift, I have only hit 455 because I'm dealing with kind of a back thing. And then squats, I've gotten up to 365.
I'm not even. I wasn't even facing her because I couldn't even. I will say though, I have benched 265, so I have her topped on that. But everything else, I'll get in the ballpark. I'm close for the other two. I'll give that one. But yeah, that's just absolutely ridiculous. And again, we got a boyfriend alert right there.
There.
How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Yeah, we're just finishing up right here.
I didn't think she was gonna do the interview like right here, front and center. But hello.
We need to have. Well, I wanted to have the dog in the background too, so that it made a perfect choice.
I love this dog. He's so good.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you want to do an interview sometime in the next few weeks. I'd love to have you on too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll definitely love to talk about that. So yeah, you guys, we have a preview then for an upcoming episode. Then we get to talk. But again, yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's awesome. So again, you guys, give both of them a follow on their Instagrams. I'll leave a link down below. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.